Peace, family. Welcome to another episode Underground Railroad Radio. This is your host, Brother Rich. We got a powerful show for y'all today. We're gonna be decoding the movie Interstellar. There was a lot of talk about the movie Interstellar, and I got some of the best decoders out there alive right now. We got the brother KT, the arts degree, Minister Jew, and Anpu on the phone with us today. What's going on, y'all?
Hey, what's happening, Rich?
Peace, family. How you doing?
All right. Well, I'm happy to have y'all on the line with me today. I heard a lot about this movie, Interstellar, and I know, I just did a video with the brother KT, the art degree. We did like a basic on just Hollywood movies in general, and we know that there's a lot of science in these movies, and they hide a lot of truths. There's a lot of hidden truths within these movies. A lot of our history is in these movies, and there's a lot of information about how this reality really works and functions within these movies. And we also understand when we study the quantum world that the physical, what we call the physical realm, is the realm of effects, and the realm of cause exists within the quantum realm. So it makes it extremely important for us to understand it, because then we understand how to construct our own reality, which is something everybody wants to do down here. So, it's one of the most important things to study. I'm glad to have y'all. I want to get right into the movie, Interstellar. KT, could you start out by just giving me a brief synopsis of what the movie's about for those that see it or maybe they didn't understand it, and then I guess y'all can elaborate after that, but just a brief synopsis of what exactly is this movie Interstellar about, and then we'll get into some questions.
Well, sure, I could do that. With the trailer and with the preview, they're pretty much letting people know that Earth is in a dystopian future, meaning that, everything is broken down, the resources got exhausted to the point where, humanity can't stay on the planet Earth no more, and that they have an initiative to seek out a new habitat, a new planet, another galaxy where humanity can relocate to. So that's the basic premise, and how they go about finding this new planet is by way of taking a wormhole there. So off the rip, it's the movie's really talking about a shift in a paradigm, a shift in consciousness, and that the old way of thinking and the old way of living has retired. It has exhausted itself. And in order for us to survive as a people, we have to shift our consciousness into another paradigm. We have to go through a wormhole. We have to establish a black hole, a unified structure in the community, in order for us to take our humanity, to a higher dimensional plane of existence.
Okay, so now, with that being said, in the movie, they talk a lot about this concept of relativity, and they deal a lot with time, and manipulating time, and could you tell me a little bit about how it was possible for what's the name of the guy that went out into space? What was the main character? Cooper? Was that his name?
Cooper, yeah, man.
Right.
Cooper.
Right. How was Cooper able to stay young? Because he kind of left Earth, and he went out into space, and everybody on Earth was aging, but he pretty much stayed the same age. What does that mean about time down here? Is time able? Because there's people always talk about the idea that time is perception based, and when you're having a good time, time flies. And when shit's fucked up, time drags by. It goes real slow. Like any brother that's locked up, time is going by real slow for them. But when you're having a good time, it goes by real fast. So how does this process work of manipulating time?
Well, I tell you this, our whole structure of time is, a fallacy. It's based on a quicksand foundation, because we're not responsible for creating or establishing the construct of time that we live by now. For the mere fact that the new year starts in the dead of winter, that the day starts at night, and that the basic unit of time is a second. And I always tell people, where is the first? And that's what happened in the movie when he was trying to send the Morse code to the sister. He kept bringing the second back to the first because we have to all establish ourselves on the one. Now, when we observe reality, if you study it in physiology, they tell you that there's two types of time that we experience. There's a time based upon the structure that we live in, and then there's a time that we actually experience on our own. Everything that we experience is actually delayed. The same way when we might be doing this interview, but when we're listening to the radio, it might be off, by half a second or 3 seconds or something like that. So is our experiences, because what we fail to realize is that this is a holographic reality, and we have to go back and forth to the source. Our electrons that make up the atoms, that make up the molecules, that make up the 100 trillion cells, of our temple, they're constantly beaming back and forth from the source back to us, to the source back to us again. So we're not always here. Sometimes we're not here. So our concept of time is relative to scale as well. And an example of that would be if you ever look at footage like from the perspective of a bug. Like if a human's trying to kill a fly and we're looking from the bug's perspective, we think we're moving our hand lightning fast, but when the bug is looking at us, we're moving, slow motion, like 300 frames a second or something like that. And they have enough time to drink a cappuccino, get in the jacuzzi, play a couple rounds of golf before they even take off. You know what I'm saying? So that's a matter of scale, and the same way it goes with the planets. When Saturn and Uranus and all those planets are looking down at us, they might be looking like they're going slow, but we're looking like we're going fast. We're rolling right through it. So time has different variations based upon perspective. And in terms of him, when he was able to go into singularity through that black hole, when he became part of the unified field, what he was able to do was go inside his mind, access his hippocampus by way of his substantia nigra, and utilize emotion in order to manipulate the time, the space-time continuum, so that he can change his fate.
Now, in the movie, they said, I'm glad you brought up emotion. One of the things that they kept making a point out of, they were saying that love is the one thing that transcends time and space. And you just mentioned how he used emotion. So what is it about this love emotion that's able to transcend time and space?
Well, it's the binding, it's the fabric of the universe. I mean, it's definitely on the same axis as hate. They're on the same, they're different variations of one another. But love is a purifying energy. Your heart chakra is the bridge between the higher and the lower. Just like us being humans, we are the bridge between the microscopic and the macroscopic. Now, when you look at the lander, which was one of the, it might have been the Ranger, actually, the Ranger, which was one of the ships that they would use to go through the atmosphere, if you look at the shape of that ship, it had like two horns coming out of it, and it had kind of a scoop type or like a foot-like shape with the ship itself, and that was the limbic brain. They were dealing with the fornax, the hippocampus, and the amygdala. And the amygdala deals with emotion. The hippocampus deals with memory, and the fornax acts as a relay center kind of between the two. So that's why we kept dealing with memory, we kept dealing with time, we kept dealing with the emotion, because the movie was symbolic. It was symbolic of the brain. Him talking about all we do is look up at the stars. We used to look up at the stars and look at our heavens. Now the only thing we do is, fight over our place in the dirt. And then what he was saying in that aspect was, oh man, all we do now is worry about our physical body. We don't think about the stars anymore. We don't look towards enlightenment anymore. We don't look towards the constellations, to the zodiac. We don't look towards those sciences anymore. We just caught up in this mundane existence. So his whole thing about blasting off was about going into his higher mind. That's why the structure, the endurance, the Ranger, the lander, that space station construct that he was in was an extension of the brain. It represented the brain. That's why it had 12 sections rotating around that limbic brain because it represented those 12 cranial nerves that connect to the 12 constellations, which represents the correspondence of being able to connect heaven to earth.
Noble Anpu, now I know you deal with this whole love dynamic, also Minister Jew. Could you tell the people how can they use this love, this emotion of love in their day-to-day lives? Because when we watch this movie and we see things like this, we want to know how to make it applicable to our everyday life. And sometimes the movie could show us things that are already inside of us and bring it out. So how can we use love as a force to empower us on a day-to-day basis in a world that some may say is filled with hate? How can you somehow invest your energy in love instead of what you may see in your external environment?
Right, man. Rich, that's an excellent question, man. We got to be real careful, you know what I'm saying, in our perception of the environment, because your perception is what actually creates your reality. Let me be very, very, very clear with this. I'm going to give the people a good book to read. It's by Dr. Bruce Lipton called The Biology of Belief.
Oh, yeah.
The dude is, biology of belief, spontaneous evolution, but specifically the biology of belief and the honeymoon effect, to learn how to use the science of love inside of, in your relationships. We got to be real careful, because what he has shown dealing with the science of the cell is we only know two modes, growth and replenishing. We can call that love. The cell is going to either be in an environment that's neutral and say, you know what, I'm ready to reproduce. That's love, okay? Or we're going to be in that old Newtonian, that old Darwin type of thing where we say survival of the fittest, and we got to shut down and we got to fight, which means I don't have time to procreate and be loving and grow because you're under stress and I must preserve my energy as cells to help you fight. You see what I'm saying? And when you stay in this particular mode of anger, being upset, and rightfully so, you know what I'm saying? That you got to be real, real careful how long you're going to stay there. Like KT was mentioning about the amygdala, that thing right there is a beast as far as relaying a negative emotional experience. So the first thing is the old cliche of you got to love yourself. Now, what does that look like? Because I asked a question. I'm working on some. It's part of this workshop that me and Minister do called I Have Workshop, where I got the heart technology, and I show people the power of their heart and love. And to get to your question is this. When I say love yourself, people automatically assume, of course I love myself. I'm myself, right? That's what people say. And then they'd be like, well, who else is going to love me? So I love myself. And they say it from the perspective as if they have to love themselves because nobody else is loving them. You see what I'm saying? And what I'm saying is, on a larger scale, when you love yourself, do you tell your heart that you love it? And do you tell your kidneys that you love it? Do you tell your liver you love it? And what I mean by that is, it's the old practice in the Tao, especially dealing with the work of Mental Chia, is these are individual states of consciousness, and these organs automatically know what to do. Now, we can call it as a part of the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, things that do things automatically. Your heart beats automatically. You're not telling it to beat. You're not telling your lungs to contract. You're not thinking about those things that you do automatically. And since that is an intelligence, because it is, if you don't consciously tell it that you love it, how can it assume that you love it just because you are you? That don't make no sense. You understand what I'm saying? So the first thing that you have to do is, we call it coherence, dealing with the wave, which is we just call that a good vibration. You see what I'm saying? A good vibration from the heart. So the first thing you have to do is, you have to get inside of the heart chamber. You have to get inside of your heart, and you got to be relaxed, and you got to start dealing with love from that particular standpoint of truthfully loving yourself by telling yourself you love yourself. I love you, heart, whatever you want to do, because it starts right there with the beat. And with that beat, that pulse, we got to understand that the post, this ain't no cliche type of stuff. This is really serious stuff. The post is like a sound wave on how everybody can hear my voice right now. So it's like a wave that travels from a cell phone to your cell phone. I'm sending you a text message. It's encoded information about every single thing, your temperature, your saliva, everything that your body needs to do to shed over 76 trillion cells in a minute easily. You see what I'm saying? Everything is encoded inside of that beat. That vibration called your pulse, there's a thing that we call coherence. Your heart has to be in a high vibratory rate for yourself. And then this gets into the whole science of making things manifest for yourself. See, how you going to be in the mode of war, fight, depressed, starving, or just, on the defensive, you see what I'm saying? But at the same time, too, you say you want to get paper. You want to be more financially abundant. You want to be happy in life. You see what I'm saying? That's a very delicate line to be able to play both sides of that reality, and we're going to have to figure out what is a successful blueprint to engage in both of those realities. So the way we do it, Rich, is real simple. Look yourself in the mirror. And this is real talk, because we talk that's weird. That's a little kooky. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. Like, majority of us are not taught to do that, but that's okay. We have to really, really, really get into that science of loving yourself by looking yourself in the mirror. Do you really take time to slow down and say, let me look at myself in the eye, person to person, face to face, soul to soul, heart to heart, and get into the power of love, and then start invoking light as the sun is rising in the morning, and you see light coming into your whole being and just putting your hand over your heart? Shit, you pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the United States. You know what I'm saying? Pledge allegiance to yourself. Pledge allegiance to your heart. And then we can really start something when we do that. That's what it is.
Okay. Brother, Minister Jew and KT, in the movie, the main character Cooper, and he kept saying that there was some beings in outer space helping them to figure things out when they were trying to leave planet Earth. They kept leaving, I guess, symbols or something, so they knew they were getting help from somewhere else. Right. I guess when he fell into that black hole, he found out that it was him, and he went through some time dimension. I want y'all to explain it better, but he found out that it was really him leaving the symbols for himself. So does that go into the aspect of our multi-dimensional being, that we exist on different realms at the same time? Is that going into that whole dynamic?
Yeah. When you saw that scene in the movie, light is not subject to classical relativity. It is everywhere all the time, through and through, in every dimension at the same time. It's only relative to the observer how that light is going to be used in their reality as they collapse that wave of potential in the quantum world. So when you saw that scene, you saw how he was just kind of floating around in there, which is a trademark for no gravity. So in the 5D realms of essence, you're specifically dealing with light, and these subatomic particles that are the constituents to actually create photons and whatnot. But when you follow the movie, you see that it turns out that he was communicating to his daughter and to himself from the 5D reality while he was still here in the 3D and had not left the planet yet, which specifies the definition of light being everywhere all the time. That is the human edifice. You are everywhere all the time, and you will send messages and transmit data through the use of gravitational fields, especially primarily here on this planet, because when light enters gravitational fields, it bends, you see. So the science is they were showing you the quantum aspect of how do you identify when you as a light source and or your ancestors as a light source, how do you identify when that field of light or that essence of light is trying to communicate with you here in this time space called Earth? So what happened was she said, okay, I'm going to put these books on this shelf, and I'm going to know if it's a ghost. By the way, these books fall off, they're going to give me a message. It's going to be, the message is going to be encoded in the language. So signs and symbols show up every day in our reality. Some people's cognition is turned up to be able to identify it. Some people, they just walk around blindly and not able to see. But your higher self and your ancestors who exist in these dimensional interfaces communicate with you all the time to get you to understand how to move in this reality, right? This takes us back to the Ogdode story when they say that Tahuti and Mayat were the only deities that existed inside of these forces before manifestation occurred. So we know Tahuti is the scriber, Mayat is dealing with the justice. So your ancestors, and I'm talking about revolution, because they gave you the science on how you, they didn't give you nothing. The higher levels of beings, shall we say, or yourself, or your higher essence of God on another dimension, right, channeled its way through these people who make these films, and then the message is kicked back to you here, but they're being used as a conduit. So your ancestors and you are giving you the game every day on how to engage here in order to get freedom, justice, mayat, equality, through what? Through signs and symbols or scribing. What is the message in the bottle? You see? So when we look at, I just give a few examples, right? We see these major stories take place in the news cycle, right? And then people immediately look at it in a carnal sense. Let's take it out of the movie, because we know that's where the information is at, so we can be put on game to understand what the science is. But then let's relate it to the things that we look at day to day that we call, quote unquote, reality or real life events that take place on your 2, 5, and 7 channels. You get a story about a man last year, right, who goes and kicks in a door by the names of Charles Ramsey, right? He kicks in the door with another gentleman who don't speak no English by the name of Angel Cordero. They run into a house who this man who's been keeping these women captive by the name of Ariel Castro. So right off the rip, you have Egyptian pantheon, Ramsey. You have angels kicking doors in, and you got higher hierarchies of angels actually inside of the house, who happen to be at 2207 Seymour Street. 2207 is 3.14, which takes you back to the pi, but this is why it's going down in the 314 right now in Missouri. All of these things that keep taking place in these cycles is light transmitting down into this reality to show you how to engage your quote-unquote oppressor through the subatomic realm. So you get tombstones at Mike Brown's vigil. We get his cousin on the phone, Joanna, to talk about what was going on in Ferguson when it first hit the fan on our radio show. And it's a tombstone sitting outside at the vigil the same day after the young man got murdered that says, star power prayers.
That's right.
On the tombstone. So now the priesthood, Noble Anpu and Minister Jew, been blowing the horn for 3 years on this science. That you have to engage, right, in order to get justice and reciprocity down here through not necessarily this Merkurial principle, and I talked about this before on the last show, but you're going to have to go all the way Neptune down here. You're going to have to go all the way Neptune because it is the unseen that governs the seen. But light bends when it enters gravitational fields, and you had a doctor by the name of Dr. Lawrence Doyle who told you what? He was able to see how linguistics fall in frequency, and he said, listen, when we see language and symbols, when they come together and cohere together in this frequency, it seems to be that no matter what language it is on the planet that you speak, it has a 45-degree angular bend. You see? So this light, right, that's synonymous with this the Kabbalistic text, right, because that's what we're familiar with in our studies, dealing with these light angles or angels, as other people may call them. They're nothing more than angles of light that have intelligence that's trying to get your attention if you're symbol literate. And you can use this science to raise hell down here on this planet. And I'm not speaking from theory. I'm speaking from practice. Real life practice.
Now, KT, could you expand on that aspect of the movie?
Definitely. First of all, let me say that I'm extremely honored and excited to be on this line with y'all two brothers because, you know, it's just, you know, as you vibe and you resonate, you know, it all comes forward. So I'm gonna kind of go off of both the brothers. I'm gonna start with Jew real quick. He just mentioned Lawrence Doyle. If anybody was paying attention to the movie, that was the name of the scientist that got swept up on Miller's planet by the water. He was Professor Doyle. Now, to go back to what Brother Anpu was saying when he was talking about the whole emotional element, that's the reason why all the planets dealt with the 3 states of water, because we're dealing with the 3 states of matter moving into the 4th state of matter, the plasma, or the three states of water moving into the 4th state of water, the easy zone or the exclusion zone. So the first planet that they go to was a planet that embodied water, and it was the high-frequency Aquarian age, okay? The whole Aquarian age thing about bringing forth the knowledge, you know, the water bearer. Now, the female, she was seeking data. Now, if you're dealing with a right brain or a right hemisphere train of thought dealing with spirituality, creativity, music, love, and light, which is watery, you know, the energy within that realm has nothing to do with seeking logic. That's left brain. So that's exactly why everything went awry on that planet, because it was the wrong energy. And the guy who represented grounding or earth or the land ended up getting swept away in that instance, you know. But then they went ahead and they went to the other planet. It was Dr. Mann's planet. And before they went there, see, she wised up on the ship, and she was like, look, we need to go to Edmund's planet. Edmund etymologically means prosperity, progeny, future, you know, generations. She was like, we need to go to Edmund's planet. And then Matthew McConaughey got egotistical, and his thing was, oh, you got to tell her. I mean, you got to tell him. And she was like, yeah, I'm in love with Edmund. So she followed her heart. She followed her intuition. She was operating from the vibration of love. But what happened was she got cock blocked by Matthew McConaughey, by Cooper, and they decided to go to Dr. Mann's planet. And Dr. Mann's planet represented the left brain. Okay, 67 days of light, 67 days of day, which is 13-13-44. You had Matt Damon, which is ND, and Matthew McConaughey, which is MM, both 44, and they both were battling while they were down there. He told them that the whole planet was frozen ammonium. So what's so relevant about that? Well, if we go back to the planet in the beginning, when they were seeing all the dust forms, the dust storms were blight. Blight represents fungus. And the corn, him being a corn farmer, he was represented as a sore. A sore was always represented by the corn because of him being cut up into all those pieces, being spread all over the world, regrowing how the cornstalk regrows every year. And then they drove it home when the drone came out, because drone means bee, and bee is Netsu Biddy, and Netsu Biddy represents God King. So he represented the energy of a sore. Plus he was rolling around with a robot whose name is Tars. Tars means phallus. So he was rolling around with a phallus. So you had all that stuff going on in that particular energy. And when you deal with fungus, corn, wheat, soy coming inside of the human body, because that's what Earth represented. It represented the destitute physical physiology that we have to outgrow. We can't keep eating all this garbage that's out here that has all the soy, the wheat, the corn, and all of that stuff in it. He represented that. So when you have a body that has large quantities of nitrogen by way of fungi proliferating within inside your blood, then you're going to create large quantities of ammonium inside your body. Your left brain is going to be frozen. It's going to be dead. And that's what Dr. Mann represented. And then when he decided to steal their ship and try to dock on the thing that represented the people who are not chosen, trying to hitch a ride on the ones who are chosen, and even though they think that they're docking, they're not going to get past the medulla oblongata, because the docking station represented the brain stem, the docking area represented the medulla oblongata, and he wasn't able to get up to the limbic brain where he would be able to attain higher consciousness. And from that point, the thing blew up, it went spinning, and then they had to match angle rotation with angle rotation in order to ascend, in order to go through the big gargantua. Now, gargantua, a lot of people don't know what gargantua means. Gargantua is actually a big up to Dr. Gabriel Oyibo. That's why the only brother that was on the ship, Romilly, which actually means Romulus, Romilly, he looked just like Oyibo. They had, even though he's mad young, the cat is like in his 30s or something like that, they had the little Baldy with the little George Jefferson thing going around the side, even when he was young, because they were trying to give you the image of Gabriel Oyibo.
Well,
and
tell the people who get before you.
Yeah, I'm about to tell them right now. Okay. Gabriel Oyibo is a mathematician in 1990. Came up with Gagut, G-A-G-U-T, which is the God Almighty Grand Unified Theorem, which, because the whole movie deals with the science of Kip Thorne, who is the leading theoretical physicist on the planet, he represents Einstein in modern times. So, of course, the answer to Einstein, what Einstein died trying to figure out, was the theory of everything. Well, in 1990, Dr. Gabriel Oyibo, a Nigerian mathematician, actually figured it out. So it's called a theorem. It's not a theory, it's a theorem. And it's called Gagut, G-A-G-U-T. Now, if you look at the word gargantua, it has Gagut inside there. And a black hole, as I talk about it being W-H-O-L-E, black hole, that's a unified field. That's why when he entered the unified field, he was able to connect with himself over different times, over different space, through a stretch of space, because he was dealing with the equation of the G-I-J, J equals 0, which was created by Gabriel A. Oyibo, dealing with the Grand Unified Theorem, which is Gagut.
And his name is Gabriel.
Exactly.
Every time you look around,
the angle of light, baby. The angles of light.
It's always going to be an angle of light around. With the Ferguson situation, right? See, when we start identifying ourselves as subatomic particles, right? When we realize that those are the ingredients of the universe, electrons and protons and quarks and mesons, all these other things. When we understand that, right, then this reality will start to unfold right before your very eyes,
Right.
And you will become the cause of the effects on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Just like these subatomic particles are the cause of the effect that we see that we call reality or 3D. But when you get, right, electrons hot, and this is, I'm saying this in a way because I don't want to say everything on this radio, man, because this is really serious. Really serious. When you get electrons hot and stimulated in the same place, look, just follow me on this. Look what's going on in Ferguson. You got a bunch of people hot, pissed off, right? But it has to be controlled. When you get a bunch of electrons in the same place at the same time, stimulated, they create something called a laser.
That's right. Coherent.
Okay? That's right. It creates something called a laser. Now, when you stimulate subatomic particles in the gamma spectrums of light, right, we can't see it with the human eye, but sometimes the vapor from the stimulation will seep over into the visible spectrum that we call fluorescent light.
Yep.
Now, is it a coincidence that the police department in Ferguson is located at, I think it's 202 Fluorescent Avenue? Huh?
Yeah, it is.
These angles are going to keep talking. And by the way, it was Michael down there, what this fuss is all about. And I've done presentations on this before, where if you see it, it'll blow your mind. The anomaly of how this thing has unfolded down here in the last 2 years. So, you know, this science is a actual applicable science, and here's the beautiful part about it. You don't have to pick up not one gun nowhere, anywhere on the planet.
That's right.
It is done through the right hemisphere of your brain, like KT said, activating that hippocampus on the right, which is the only brain structure that synthesizes theta waves. Once we tap into that state and get those synaptic currents running from right to left, it's going to be a problem down here.
Right. In other words, we can think your ass out of existence.
Damn right.
Literally. And then, because I know we're about to be personal, huh? Let me say this real fast, Rich. See, this we put together a presentation years ago, and what we call consciousness is so lame, man, so behind, because one of the real questions we got to ask, in the sense of the quantum aspect, man, what if all of these cats, these cats that got platforms talking consciousness and talking about change and saving the community, but collectively, if Dr. Ben, if the stroke of Bobby Hemmitt couldn't bring you to create a community treasury that to ought to just be in existence, like something is really wrong with it. Something's really wrong in this equation here. And what if you're stalling? It goes beyond ego. This is really a psychosis. It's really a mental problem, for real. But what if your stalling is actually creating the phenomenon that you bitching about? You see what I'm saying? Because this is what I mean. See, if all you're going to do is rah, and talk about the pain and the hurt and this is wrong, but the truth of the matter is you ain't organizing nothing down in Ferguson. The truth of the matter is you ain't kidnapping no damn judges like they did with Jonathan Jackson and George Jackson and them. You're not doing that kind of work. You understand what I'm saying? So if you are sitting here talking about that and you amplifying it out of your negative emotions based off your perception of it, you see what I'm saying? You're going to create another event to occur to stimulate your reality. It's real basic. It's just the real simple laws of attraction here. The way that we're going to have to deal with this is I put it out in Cosmic Art of War. Part 1. I put it out in Galactic Activation, these 2 DVDs. We put it out and showed these cats, listen, when you go to the ancestors, see, this is the thing, what gets me with these clowns is don't nobody want to say that their God is dead, right? Everybody believes that their God is alive. This force and this intelligence is alive. Okay, if your God is alive, then let's go outside collectively, call on this God, okay? I don't care if we got the Hebrews to the left. I don't care if we got RPG in the middle. I don't care who we got on the right-hand side. Call on each squadron, call upon their gods collectively in the uniform fashion and show us if God is real. See, when we go out and we go to mountaintops and we do meditation and we put it out in the public before we do something, and then next thing you know, something occurs to correspond to exactly what we was talking about, we will show you that the intelligence, the field, God, whatever you want to call it, is real. The problem is these dudes don't believe in the supreme being like that. Because if you did, then you will stand on that and show us how the field responds to you as a man of God.
It is.
Real simple. And what we're going to do is, y'all got to go over to the neuronnetwork.com. We're going to give a free presentation online. Sign up, put your email on, sign up on the mailing list. We're going to do a free online presentation that we did when we did it in a tribute to Brother Bobby Hennett. We sent him a couple $100. All right, it's a tribute to Bobby because he was the only one that was really, from my viewpoint, he's the only one that's kicking the real deal science down here, man. So go to the neuronnetwork.com. Please enter in your email address. We get you on that mailing list so you can see how this thing works. The Prime Minister said he didn't want to say too much, but we'll show you how this thing works. All right?
Now, I want to touch on this concept, in the movie that, and not with just this movie, Interstellar, but with a lot of movies, they touch on the concept of leaving Earth and traveling somewhere else. To another planet, another dimension, another galaxy. When we study what our ancestors talked about, and they talked about the Sirius star constellation and Orion's belt, were they talking about physically going there or mentally? Now the universe is mental. Were they talking about traveling to these other worlds and these dimensions mentally, or were they talking about taking their physical? Is it possible to take our physical vessel and travel to these places?
Well, when you understand quantum mechanics, and you start getting into dissolving photons, which has been done in laboratories, they've been able to transport and teleport photons over millions of miles, disintegrating it in one location and then it reappearing in another location. It's not quite entanglement, although they did show entanglement in Interstellar. If you notice when Dr. Mann and Cooper start humbugging, right, then Cooper's son back on Earth got into a humbug.
That's right.
At the very same time. So they showed you how the entanglement process works, no matter how far away you are. When one thing happens to one electron in one region of space, the same thing happens to the other one, no matter how far apart they are from one another. So when you start to study the laws of the quantum, which govern the physical, right, then all these things are possible. The question is, can man fine-tune his psyche enough to be able to step into that potential? You see? Exactly. So I'm not going to rule anything out. But what I will say is, since I know it exists on a subatomic level and it can be done, I'm going to lean further to yes than no, because I know that's what substantiates what we see in the physical, you see. And science is really a baby, man. The ancestors and the ancients, they was giving you this game in all of these old scriptural writings. I don't care what book you choose, it's in there, especially if you read it in the organic language. You know what I mean? It's in there. So obviously these men had these, especially like in the book of Daniel, when he gets real sick from this vision, and Gabriel had to come help him out in understanding what the vision was. When you actually get into the linguistics of it all, it's actually talking about spin orientation, being able to project yourself into one time and space, and then what happens when you come back into body, right, and your consciousness comes back into your body, how the spin orientation collapses, and then you get when antimatter and matter actually meet. But it's in all of these holy books. You know what I mean? You just have to have an eye to be able to discern it and read it in the organic language, or at least translate it into the organic language to get a meaning from it. So to answer that question, I'm not ruling it out, Rich.
Not at all. You look back at that King's Chamber and that narrow pathway that they had lining right up with Sirius, and the coffin, you know, they were using sound, tones to manipulate that light being projected. Like you said, when light gets affected by gravity, it bends. So what happens when it comes out of gravity? You know, then it becomes coherent and laser light. Another thing that you know, when you were talking about the coherence earlier, you know, through that fourth phase of matter that they have expressed now, called the exclusion zone, Mai Wan Ho, which is a Japanese scientist, female scientist, and Emilio Emilio del Guidice, he actually just transcended about 6 to 8 months ago. But they were the leaders in their field of studying water, and they've come to find out that 40% of water is coherent. They have these spheres within inside water called coherence domains that are actually able to capture the electromagnetic field of the environment. And because it's free-flowing electrons within inside the sphere, it's seen as plasma. So it's actually lasers that are coherent within inside water that create these mini black holes. So 40% of the water that you have, so just like you were talking earlier about the mirror and looking in the mirror and tell you I love you, that's why it's so powerful, because we're over 80% water. And when we're able to manifest these, utilize these coherence domains within inside the water and make that laser-like, use that laser-like energy of the electromagnetic spectrum, then we're able to tap into the source. And, you know, magic ain't nothing but science unexplained. You know what I'm saying? That's just a broad terminology that we use, but it's still using quantum mechanics, whatever you want to call it. But something as simple as looking in the mirror, telling you that you love yourself and meaning it goes a long way, you know, figuratively and literally, because you send that shit all the way to the source, you know what I'm saying? So, and I also want to say, because I didn't get around to saying this, I want to extend great gratitude, love, and light to Minister Jew and Noble Anpu, because when KP the Arch Degree was, you know, just on Know the Ledge, you know, sounding crazy, and, you know, I had my people listening, you know, they stepped up to help me to create an infrastructure to monetize what I was doing. You know, they really supported me for a good amount of time and let me get out to the people. So I want to make sure that the family knows that and extend my gratitude to the two brothers as well.
Well, you good, man. It goes without saying, you know. It goes without saying, you know what I mean. You're a genius, you know what I'm saying. And you know, you said something in the beginning too, KT. Your opening line, man, was brilliant about establishing black hole in this unified field and going into this wormhole to establish a new level of consciousness. And you start hitting on all those 44s, man. We have put together a quick little revolution called Revolution 444, which is a website, revolution444.com. The numbers, revolution444.com. And we basically size this thing up in a nutshell, man. Rich, you know how, man, this thing is chess. You know what I'm saying? And when we look at the Cosmic All War people that did part one, we was really just laying it all out. And you got some people down here, you know what I mean, that's very passionate. Everybody's passionate, and everybody love the community. Everybody love life. You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, we have been in a situation where we still have to fight. We're still in the era where the verdict is out dealing with this whole Mike Brown situation. So it's very real. And you have people who are more of the guerrilla physical force type people. You got people who understand law and who are very clever and understand contracts and who have been very successful in different litigations and very successful in understanding how to do estates and do auctions and things of that nature. You got people such as yourself who got brilliant radio shows and broadcasts to get the word out, you know what I'm saying? And you got spiritual people who understand how to deal with the demon, who know how to usher in the judgment. The truth of the matter is we shouldn't be running no playbook but Haiti. Everybody want to dismiss that, but Haiti was the only one that was really successful in dealing with a mind frame, a mindset that came in through Europeans. Now, this thing gets tricky because you got to understand when the Prime Minister says something like the frequency of consciousness, the ancestors, your higher God, your higher self, actually starts to infiltrate these movie producers to produce things to get you to reawaken yourself. Majority of this stuff is not to taunt you. Majority of the stuff that you see is to taunt you, but it's to taunt you to get you excited so you can do what you ultimately say that you want to do. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, Resolution 444, man, really draws out the outline of how we can create this unified field. And I'm going to say this. When you understand the United States of America, and you understand the psychology of what makes it work, I always hit it with this point, man. United States Navy Observatory, USNO, they keep track of time, and the vice president lives there, okay? The second man in charge of the country who's never to be with Barack Obama, the president at the same time, just in case something happened to the number one guy, the number two guy can take charge. He lives at a place that studies planets, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about Interstellar here, all right? And their job at the USNO is to feed data to the war machine, okay, called the executive branch. Now, what the hell does that have to do with war? If war is about, hey, you're over here, I'm going to drop my airplane and I'm going to drop some bombs on you, why do they need data from someone who studies space parameters, things of that nature? You understand what I'm saying? That shows you that to do physical battle in this reality, you have to have a very thorough concept of spiritual science, point blank, period. That's why everything everybody been talking about have not gotten the progress or the end result. That where's this big utopia at? Where's that community fund, that's there? Where is this peace, love, and happiness? Where is this attraction? Where is this abundant lifestyle at? Where is it? You see what I'm saying? Why is it missing in this little small pocket of consciousness, but yet you're so damn smart? You know what I'm saying? It's like something is really, 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 really wrong with that picture here. So what I'm saying is you got to understand the spiritual science of this, we just call it galactic warfare that's really taking place here, and how you can tap into that energy. Like the Prime Minister said, you ain't got to lift nothing. You ain't got to lift nothing. Enough of you get out there and you think about it. And I like to use the analogy of Farrakhan would have told 10 million people in Washington, D.C. At the Million Man March to everybody have the same intent, same emotion, and just go 100 times. Watch what happens. Watch what happens. Sound can move you. He was talking to science. Sound, as music, it moves you. The collective sound with the collective intent, powered with the positive emotion, creates a whole new reality. And you do it all the time when you buy music and your ass be bumping your shit going down the street.
Right. And to take it to another level, there's a science called picosecond ultrasonics and phasar technology, which is like laser, but instead of saying light amplified, it's sound amplified. And they're actually levitating objects with sound. So, I mean, we've been talking about it for years in terms of, scaling down there with the Coral Castle, or the temples in Kemet, as well as Machu Picchu, how they get them stones cut, how they get them stones up there. Well, they were using tones. They were using the sounds to levitate these heavy rocks. They were using ultrasonic phasars in order to cut the rocks and things of that nature. So you can go on YouTube and type in acoustic levitation, and there's a lot of experiments that they're showing right now. So our song and our dance wasn't just us jamming. It's just like in the Matrix when they was inside Zion, our song and our dance actually creates, it formulates it produces, and that's why, the Goody Mob had that "We Don't Dance No More." Like
all
that.
We do is this. Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. We got to get back to the music. We got to get back to the sound.
Right.
What did it? Good.
I was gonna say too, to add on to that Haiti piece, Noble, that you just dropped. Let me tell you, man, it's high priests all around us, man. We just got to keep our eyes open and see how things come back in this reality. In September, you had the illustrious Professor James Smalls on Arnetta's channel, right? And he said while he was out there, right, because Tahuti rules all things, man. He's sitting inside the Argo story, right? And whenever it's justice being invoked, they go to balance of my eye. So when your words are coupled with justice, right, even though that justice may have to bring about warfare in order to get reciprocity and balance the scale, it's still plausible. So Professor James Small says he's talking about the whole Haiti lick, right? He's been the voodoo priest for who knows how long, probably 20 years plus. He gets on there and talks about this phrase that the Haitians used after they defeated the French army when they told them they had to get the hell out. And he said it was a phrase called coupe tête brûle car, which means burn their house down and cut off their heads. As soon as he said that, it was mighty funny how all these beheadings started to take place. You see? So, Rich, I explained to you before the Titan and the Titanic and how imagination creates realities. So when you start to see who's who and things start to progress in this reality, then you know who to go tap, who's tuned into that current, because their words, actions will line up with what they said out of their mouth afterwards.
That's right.
To check it. That's the check.
Prophecy. Who's prophesying in the land today? Everybody's talking about the children of Amun-Ra, the children of Yahweh. Show me your prophecy, man. Show us that, hey, tomorrow this is going to happen because the Most High said it's going to happen, and this is how you're going to know that this is your time right now. When did God stop coming through for the people and leave their current people with a book of the past? That ain't never happened, man. Write your own scripture and stop playing.
Right.
I wanna ask you about. Hold on.
Go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I wanna just touch on one last thing with the movie. We're about to wrap it up. Something they said in the movie. I want to get you guys' take on it. They mentioned that the laws of nature prohibit a naked singularity. Could you go into that a little bit?
Repeat the question one more time.
The laws of nature prohibit.
Yes, a naked singularity.
Well, I'll start it off. Well, singularity deals with infinite density. What they say is that in terms of the theoretical black hole, we ain't talking about black holes are real, but in the theoretical sense of the black hole, no light can escape, and when everything enters the black hole, it enters singularity. And singularity is supposed to be a state in which something has infinite density, or if we want to talk about it in a state where we can all understand, everybody turns into noon. Singularity is the representation of noon. So the reason why Michael Caine was like, his whole character, he's laboring to figure out what the answer to this equation was. And he ended up being on deathbed telling his daughter, yo, I've been fronting for the past 20-something years, because I already knew that I couldn't answer it. The only way I could answer it is if I was able to look inside a black hole. That's why he was saying that, nature prohibits it. But it's not that actually he was telling the truth. Nature does prohibit him and his people and what they stand for. The whole Kip Thorne theoretical physicist community, they're not able to get the answer they want unless they're able to look inside of a black hole and see the singularity. Now, what does that actually mean? That means the only way that the world, that the reality that we live in will become the utopian environment that we visualize in our mind fantastically through the energy of Neptune is if we're able to become a holistic community, a black hole, singularity being the state of noon, a oneness, a unified front. Now, when they're able to see that as a reality, then guess what? All their questions will be answered at that point. But see, because of their state of mind, because of Dr. Mann, because of the Dr. Manns and the Professor Brands, because you know what a brand is, and you know what a doctor and a man is, so that's Dr. Mann and Professor Brand, based upon their mentality and how they think and what drives their functions for everyday life, yes, that prohibits them. Nature prohibits them from being able to see that. So that's why he died. And that's why Dr. Mann died, but prior to Cooper, who's copper, like I said, who represents the sword, you know, the wood, because Cooper means woodsmith, woody, you know, phallus with the tars by him. They died before they died in order for him to experience that. See, he was able to look at the black hole. He witnessed it. You know what I mean? So that's what that whole energy was about. You know, that's what that line was talking about.
Now, there's something that I've seen. I was, you know, when we talk about, you know, the science and the quantum, I was looking at some of the comments from KT's last video he did, and a couple of the viewers wanted to know, why do you always have to make everything about race? So I'm assuming I'm assuming they weren't of the so-called black race. So they want to know, why do you have to make everything about race? Why does race always come into play when we're talking about a movie such as Interstellar or any other movie? Why does this race thing always seem to
come up? Well, I'll say it on air, like I said it when I responded to the individual on the comment thread. I told them, don't confuse black pride with racism. Okay? For some reason, you know, when we love talking about what our people have accomplished, or when we want to talk about what our people need to do, all of a sudden the attention that we put on our community and our nation gets categorized as racism and black superiority complex. And it's nothing of the sort. It's just dealing with my community, my nation, and what I know needs to be done. Now, when we're talking about Hollywood and we're talking about Marvel and comic books, we're talking about stories. Where do these stories come from? You thinking these guys are just sitting in a room and they like Eureka and start writing them down? No, these are stories that are getting regurgitated. These are plagiarized mythos of my ancestors that people are making big money off of. And the reason why I do Hollywood Decoded is so I can document each and every goddamn movie that they love stealing. You know what I'm saying? And proving the fact and showing the fact of the synchronicity to show without a shadow of a doubt of where it came from and where it originated from. We are in the position where we can do our own, but we're not currently doing our own in entertainment, unfortunately. But we need to be telling our own story. But our stories are being told, they're getting whitewashed, they're getting bent, they're getting twisted. However, the underlying theme, the underlying tone will always be there because we represent the foundation of the story, period. So I make sure that every time I break these movies down, that people don't get caught up in the fact that I'm just being an entertainer and just talking about, oh, man, look how deep this movie was. I'm deep. Listen to me and my vocabulary. No, I'm trying to create a medium. I'm trying to create a theorem of relativity between me and other people so that we can labor towards a point, so that we can figure things out. And the only way that that's going to happen is if people are up to speed on certain concepts. Like with Minister Jew and Noble been talking about. That whole quantum world, all that energy dealing with the subatomic particles and the influence of thought and the mind in relation to light and sound is a powerful, powerful science. And if we just be like, oh man, we're going to talk about quantum mechanics tonight, people ain't going to care nothing about that. But if they just got done watching Top 5 with Chris Rock, or watching the new Avengers Age of Ultron, and we say we're breaking, guess what? The people are going to come. They're going to listen because they're going to want to know, because that's something that they can relate to. And through the relativity of that, then we can have high-minded, high-frequency discussions and take people somewhere. So, no, it's not racism. And, I mean, if you want to get technical, this whole race is a race of resources, which all the resources of all the lands that we don't own, but we are part of, that we are made up of, are being exhausted. All right? So there is a race. And, you know, it's real easy for you to be in the lead or be in the illusion or delusion of being in the lead of a race, and then talk about how somebody who's trying to make sure that his team keeps it up and wins the race, is something bad or something wrong with that. Now, that's on one side. On another side, I'm not talking to you. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, you know? So just look at it for the entertainment value, you know, from your side, and keep on walking, because I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to my brethren, man, so I can lift them up, and there ain't nothing wrong with me trying to get my brother. You know, he's heavy. He's my brother. I got to put my hand down and lift him up. That's all it is.
Indeed, man. You know what, real fast, you're in the current situation right now as y'all listen to this, as we're speaking. The National Guard is coming into Ferguson, Missouri right now. So we still Mike Brown. So let's not act like the ledger of racism is even and everything balances itself out at the end of the day and it's an even Steven around here. Don't do that. Don't do that. Tune in to Ferguson right now, and we still seeing the remnants of racism. All right, so don't do that.
That's right. 3 months, baby. That's right. I said it in the diplomatic light. Anpu, you know what I mean? His name is Anpu for a reason, so you know what I mean? That's real. That's real. 3 months, 1 week later, it's still going down. You know what I mean? Like, there's what is there to talk about in the situation? Everybody knows what it is, but everybody want to turn their head away and act like it's something other than what it is. You know? So. And
the solution is star power prayers.
That's right. Star power prayers.
This solar system looks just like an atom, and these planets operate like electrons around that core nucleus called the sun.
That's right.
When you tap into them things,
star power prayers.
You better watch out.
That's right.
Better watch out. Right.
Interstellar. Can't put it no better. Now, the movie came out on November 5th. Let's not forget about V for Vendetta, the main tagline of that movie that kept getting repeated from beginning to end. Remember, the 5th of November.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Well, I want to thank y'all for coming on this program tonight. And I want to, as I do with all my guests, I want to give this opportunity for y'all to leave contact information. I know Anpu just mentioned something that him and the minister got coming up. So I want all y'all just let the people know how they can reach y'all and what y'all got coming up for them.
That's that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, once again, my name is KT, the Arch Degree. You can find me on Facebook underneath my page, Hollywood Decoded, or Kamani Tate, KAMANI TAIT. You can find me on Noble Anpu Radio with my brothers Red Pill and Blue Pill. I got, over 30 to 40 radio shows on there that I've done. You just type the KT, the Arch Degree, in the search engine. All my shows will come up. My most recent Decoded that I have completed is off of Lucy, which deals a lot with what Noble and Minister was just talking about. It's Lucy. The only thing you have to do is type lucydecoded.com in your search engine, and it'll pop right up. You can email me at kt.kamani, Kamani, @gmail.com. Message me on Facebook, whatever you like. And then I also deal with the nutrition and energy like that. My site is under construction. I'm doing some revamping, but it would be soionic.com. But, just message me, get in contact with me, and, I'll let you know what I have to provide.
Yeah, I go Noble, man. This is Minister Jew. You can catch me on myastrologycoach.com and the neuronnetwork.com. We got a few blogs going on over there. Noble mentioned a little earlier, maybe in another week or so, we'll put on a free presentation. So you go over there, subscribe, put your emails in the database. We'll send you the links if you're interested. It's going to be phenomenal. But coming up this week, this Thursday coming up, and this Sunday coming up, I'm having an online presentation called Gestation to Manifestation. We've been doing some phenomenal work. We've manifested close to $194,000 on two ventures that we had. One called Gratitude to Success, and the other one is the Inner Peace Lighthouse out in Billy. Get a lot of our spiritual work done. And we use it through the process of the mind, imagination, and tapping into the quantum. So I'm going to put a presentation on to show people how to actually step into that and show people how that process is very, very similar to the gestation process that happens in the womb of the woman, and show you how you have to develop your psycho-spiritual neurons and how that process actually takes place. So I'm going to give you the corresponding agents to show you how this thing works. So that's at myastrologycoach.com. Click on, what is it, Noble? Events?
Yeah, click on the events and online presentations.
Right. It's events and then online presentations. I'm going to run it Thursday night, 9 p.m. East Coast Standard Time, and then I'm coming back Sunday evening, same time, 9 p.m. East Coast Standard Time. For those who can't make it Thursday, they can make it Sunday. For those that can't make it Sunday, they can make it Thursday. It's going to be a phenomenal presentation. And outside of that, man, I give it up to Noble, and he can let the people know what he got coming up.
Indeed, man. I first want to thank Rich, man, for allowing me to, us to have a beautiful platform and opportunity, man. Visit the neuronnetwork.com, man. It's Real Talk Radio. Take your ass over to the neuronnetwork.com. Sign up on the email list, man, because we're going to do this free presentation, and we're going to show you what cause and effect is really about down here from a whole other spiritual plane. And, and to get on the whole another side, man, when you go over to myastrologycoach.com, go to the free download section under the shop, man, got something called the audio book. It's an audio MP3 that's there that's talking about Gratitude to Success book club I put together and dealing with the manifestation. And hear for yourself how this club had manifested over $13,000 in just 28 days for dealing with love, dealing with being happy, dealing with being grateful, and dealing with positive vibrations. So I got that war side to me, but I also got another side. We got another side to us that deal with love and abundance and how people have actually manifested this $13,000 out of thin blue air. So you can go get that at myastrologycoach.com. Go to the shop tab, free downloads, and listen to it for yourself. And that's where we at, man.
All right, this Brother Rich, y'all. Thank all y'all for coming on the show. And we signing out, y'all. Peace.
Man, thank you. Peace.